Hello, in today's foundation roundup, I have 7 foundations to review and give you my thoughts on. I'll be showing you applications and what they look like on my skin and my experiences with each foundation, as well as what skin types I think would benefit from each. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I test out a lot of foundations, concealers, powders, primers, things like that here on my channel. I'm in my mid-40s and I find as we age, it just gets harder and harder to find the right products. All right, let's go ahead and get into these foundations that I've been testing out and see what I think about them. It's really important that you know my skin type and climate because that can affect how foundations wear on our skin. I'm 46. I live in New Orleans where it is hot and humid the majority of the year. Actually, it's humid all year long. It's just now starting to cool off. I did try out all of these when it was still very hot and humid, so I just wanted to note that. My skin type is combination. I can get oily in my T-zone and have some shine to blot, but I do get some surface dehydration, some little flakies around my perimeter that are really annoying because I'm on prescription tretinoin. So finding a foundation that can manage all of those things can be a little bit difficult. I always test foundations out several days using different methods, using different primers, no primer, and various powders. I'll have links to the powders and primers that I normally test with, as well as my foundations and what I'm wearing today down in my description box below. But you're not getting one-day testing here. You're not getting first impressions. I like to test things out pretty thoroughly. So first up, we have the Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Tint. This is $43 for 1 ounce. There are 12 shades. My shade is Light Magnolia, shade 225. I was really intrigued by this because it's supposed to be this facial tint that resists heat, humidity, oil, facial motion. It's supposed to be crease free if you have a lot of facial expressions, or if you're just not in your 20s anymore and you just don't want anything that's going to gather in your creases. But it's basically supposed to provide 24 hours of hydration and light coverage, weightless coverage, and it has 70% skincare in it. So you're getting a little bit of a benefit. There's also SPF 20, which doesn't really matter to me. Anytime there's SPF in a foundation or a skin tint product, I kind of write it off because you really have to just gob it on your face to get those benefits. So, I guess that's a little bit of a bonus. It's supposed to give you 12-hour wear, 24 hours of hydration, a fresh natural finish. It's also fragrance free. So this has a pretty thick consistency, but it blends out really easily. So even though I tested all of these out multiple days, I'm only showing you just a representative day of application. So on this particular day, I used my fingers on your left side of my face to initially blend it out because it's a skin tint. I'm not someone who really loves using my fingers for foundation, but I did refine it with a sponge just to eliminate any streaks and to help it blend in a little bit better on the pores. I feel like it looks okay with a sponge. It looked nice before setting it, like my skin. I do feel like it looked better after I set it and applied my makeup. It looks very fresh and natural. I would say the coverage is sheer to light. It evens my skin tone and lets it shine through and shows my natural texture. It doesn't blur the pores. You can still see what's going on, but it doesn't emphasize them either, and our skin has pores, so that's okay. I wouldn't say it gives me my best skin ever, but it's better than if I'm walking around with nothing on my face. It does feel nice and lightweight and hydrating. However, no matter what primer, no matter what powder I use, I get super oily within 2 to 3 hours, but it wears well. It doesn't slide off my face. It doesn't break up. And I will say that crease proof claim that they make does stay true. It doesn't gather in any of my fine lines. So while this didn't work for me with my skin type and my climate, I could very easily see it working for someone who has normal to dry skin in my climate, or if you live in a drier, less hot and humid climate, even working for combination skin. So I finally tried Danessa Myricks Vision Cream Cover. Yes, this bottle is tiny. This is $22 for 0.3 0.34 ounces. This is very concentrated. I'll get into more about that here in a minute. There are 23 shades. My shade is N04. This is vegan and cruelty free. It's supposed to be a foundation and concealer in one. I have not had much luck with products like this. It's also supposed to be waterproof, very long wearing, and give natural adjustable full coverage. This is very thick and very concentrated. A little bit goes a long way. I had to really experiment with this before I got it right. So on your left, I am using a damp sponge and it spread out okay on this day. I layered it in a couple of spots and used it as an under eye concealer. On the other side, I'm using a brush to apply it and it didn't look as natural, so I just finished it with a sponge. I didn't really like applying this with a brush, and I did try it, with and without a primer with a brush, and just no. It looked a bit shiny, yet it still looked natural. I mean, I could see my pores, but that's okay. It's part of our skin. On the brush side, I just never got it quite right in the area by my mouth and under my eyes. So I would say that, in regards to the pores, I mean, it blurs somewhat before setting. It looks like skin while covering well, and, it covers under the eyes pretty nicely and looks very, very pretty after I set it. And I would say that the coverage is medium, buildable all the way up to full. I can feel this a little bit on my skin. It's not super heavy, but I can feel it. Now, when I blew my nose later in the day, this did come off. I was kind of surprised by that because of the transfer proof claim. So at 4.5 hours, you can see I'm losing some coverage kind of all over. It doesn't really even look like the same foundation. At 11 hours, this is kind of bad bathroom lighting, especially if you look under my eyes. It just looks dry. You can see where it's worn away everywhere else, and it looks dry around my mouth. With primer, it lasts longer, but I got shiny faster, which was kind of strange to me. I know there are a lot of people who've gotten this to work for them. They find it looks really natural like skin, and they get that full coverage from it, and it can cover under their eyes and on their face. So it's really versatile. For me to have it last as long as I need it to last and not transfer, I need a primer. But for some reason, when I use a primer with it, I get shiny faster. It's really strange. I just have so many other foundations that give me coverage that are less maintenance and less tricky to work with. I had high hopes for it, but it's just not my full coverage foundation. So I always try to tell you what skin types each foundation would work for. I do think that this has the potential to work for multiple skin types. It didn't catch on my dry patches. And my situation could have been my humidity. This might be one where you just kind of have to try it and see if it works for you. I don't know, because I can't quite figure out what caused my issues. I feel like I also tried this one way more days than I did others, and I just couldn't make myself love it. A few years ago, I tried the original Lancome Teint Idole foundation stick. I did not get along with it. It slid off my face. I think it broke up. I can't remember all the ins and outs. I just know I didn't like it. I don't have many foundation sticks that I get along with. Well, they reformulated it this year. I originally thought that it was just a packaging change, that they added this little brush applicator on the end, but they actually did do some kind of minor reformulation. But even knowing that, I still didn't try it right away. I don't know why. I just was a little bit hesitant. I don't know what made me break down and try it, but here we are. So this is $43 for 0.33 ounces. Keep in mind, this is a stick. It's more concentrated than a liquid. There are 22 shades. My shade is 320, which is also my shade in the liquid foundation, which I love. So this glides onto the skin so nicely. Sometimes sticks can kind of, stick onto your skin. So the application day that you're seeing is the first day I tried this, and I am trying it with two different primers because of my previous experience with the other formula. When I used it without a primer, it just slid right off my face. I just no. So I did try the little brush out. It takes a lot of time. I don't know. I don't really love this, although if you're in a pinch, I think it'll work. I much prefer to use my fingers or a damp sponge. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say that after trying this with no primer, I love it with no primer. I don't know what they did to this, or if it's because my skin has slightly changed since I tried that initial formulation. I feel like this just meshes with my skin beautifully when I don't use a primer. It looks beautiful on my pores. My skin looks lovely at the start of the day, and it settles down into this soft, velvety, matte, skin-like finish. I would say this gives medium to medium full coverage that looks natural and it feels nice and lightweight. I find that when I wear it with a primer, instead of the primer helping the foundation last longer and wear better, it does the opposite. My makeup doesn't get destroyed when I blot my face. It is long wearing. I just don't like it with a primer. Without a primer, I do get some shine that I have to blot, but it just seems to mesh with my face so much better. I still prefer the liquid to the stick. And is this my favorite stick foundation? No, but it is a good option. Who do I think that this would be great for? I would say combination, not super oily, combination to dry skin in a less humid climate for sure. I think you would really like this stick foundation. Now we have a brand that is available at Target. This is the Lip Bar Just a Tint 3-in-1 Tinted Skin Conditioner. This is $17 for 1 ounce. There are 8 shades. My shade is called My Fair Lady. This is vegan and cruelty-free. Now it claims to be a sun protector and a skin tint, a complexion perfector, and a skin moisturizer with hyaluronic acid all in one. However, it has SPF 11. I wouldn't really call this a skin protector. That's just me. This has kind of a thick, lotiony, moussey consistency, but it blends out really easily. I prefer to use a dry sponge more so than my fingers. I just find it gives, I don't know, a more natural looking finish that way. And I use a dry sponge as opposed to a damp sponge for a little bit more coverage. But if you want less, you can use a damp sponge too. It looks pretty glowy prior to setting, and then after setting, it looks softly radiant. It doesn't blur the pores. It doesn't emphasize them. They just look really natural, and my skin looks healthy. Now, there were a couple of areas on my face where you could see some flakes. I was kind of surprised by that since this is a glowy, natural skin tint and it has hyaluronic acid. This covers imperfections nicely and evens my skin tone. I would say this gives sheer light to medium buildable coverage. It feels lightweight the entire time it's on my skin, which is about 4 hours before it starts to wear away, no matter what I pair with it. I don't know about you, but I just don't have many days where I'm only going to be wearing foundation for 4 hours. So I was pretty surprised by that. I thought I would get more wear out of this than I did. I think this is a glowy, radiant type product that oily skin people could get along with. I mean, I didn't have excess oil in my T-zone when I had it on. So I would say oily all the way to dry if you don't have surface dehydration and flakes, because I had some and they were emphasized. And of course, if you don't have a long day, if you have a pretty short day and you just want to slap something on and even out your skin and that's it. That was my experience. You may be different, with this and all foundations, but that is what we have with the Lip Bar Just a Tint. Let's talk about the foundation I have on my face today. This is the Tarte SEA Hydroflex Serum Foundation. I know a lot of us are intrigued by serum foundations, especially as we get a little bit older. We like things that are infused with skincare so we can get it 24 hours a day, basically. This is $39 for 1.01 ounces, or you can get a mini that's $15 for 0.33 ounces. I do love that Tarte does minis for a lot of their products. So there are 32 shades. My shade is 25N, light, medium, neutral. This is another vegan, cruelty-free product. I was intrigued by this not only because of the skincare, but because this is supposed to flex with our skin, which I love. This has niacinamide, which I love because it smooths the pores, reduces inflammation, smooths and brightens. And because it has hyaluronic acid, it helps improve the look of our fine lines and wrinkles by plumping the skin. It's also got a vegan collagen complex, which helps improve skin elasticity by making it look plumper and more youthful. So it's got some skin benefiting ingredients in here that I was just really intrigued by. This has a very thin, runny consistency. It applies very quickly using any method, and it gives you time to work with it. So on your left, I'm using a damp sponge, and on your right, I'm using a brush and kind of finishing it off with a damp sponge just to smooth out any streaks. I'm sorry that these clips aren't super clear. It was a really rainy, overcast day when I filmed these. This smooths and blurs the pores very, very well and looks like skin. I would say you can build this from light to medium coverage. It looks like skin, very natural. I don't know what happened to my clip from this day right after application. I cannot find it, but even hours later, I was really happy with the way my makeup looked. It feels very lightweight all day long, and it does wear well. It looks good all day. Now, I do get some shine breakthrough, I would say maybe 4 to 5 hours in, but it's not oily shine. It's just a little bit of a natural looking shine that for some people it may not even bother, but it touches up well. And I'm talking about when wearing it with no primer. If you're really bothered by it, you could wear a mattifying primer underneath it just fine and you're good to go. Most of the time, I just don't wear a primer underneath this. I don't have a primer on with it today, and it's been probably 3.5 hours now, and I haven't touched it up yet, and I'm under all of these lights. Just for reference, when you're on camera, you typically need a fuller coverage foundation. I would say at least medium to medium full, just for it to come across on camera properly, and it can't be too glowy. It just looks weird. So if it is glowy, there's certain areas that typically need to be blotted pretty frequently, and I have not had to blot this yet, and I feel like the coverage looks pretty okay. It's not emphasizing pores and things I don't want emphasized, or, you know, little creases. I don't think so. I may change my tune once I edit, but I think it looks pretty good. This is a really versatile foundation. It's kind of under the radar. Not a lot of people talk about it. The packaging is portable. It's easy to apply. It's quick to apply. The coverage is versatile. If you have oily to normal or normal to oily skin, I think it would be great even without a primer, with the mattifying primer if you're super oily. It's never emphasized any dry texture. If you have dry skin, I think it would work really well for you too. You may want to try it with a hydrating primer. I find it works really well without a primer with every primer I've tried. It's been a hit for me. Now we have the YSL Bare Look Tint. This is $38 for 1 ounce. There are 20 shades. My shade is 8, which is described as light, medium, warm. It is not. It is too dark and yellow to be light, medium, warm, which is typically what I am: light, medium, warm, light, medium, neutral, warm. I was able to make it work. You'll see this in the application clips, but this is not a shade match. This is supposed to be a lightweight skin tint with hyaluronic acid, buildable light to medium coverage for a fresh, dewy complexion. It's kind of a hybrid skin tint skincare product. Now, I haven't really noted the scent in all the other products I've talked about. I don't really notice them. I notice a scent in this one. Take that for what you will. If you're sensitive to scents, you may not want to go with this one. The consistency is very thick. I like to apply it only with a dry or a damp sponge. Because of that, I did not have luck with my fingers or a brush. I find that both of those pick up on surface dehydration pretty badly that I didn't even know was there. I was kind of surprised by that based on the claims and the description of it. One day I tried it with my fingers and I actually had to completely start over because it looked so bad. I have to hydrate well with this. So I do have a different than normal moisturizer on. That's something I've really never had to do before, actually. So I have a hydrating primer on. You're right. On the left, I have no primer on, but again, I have a different moisturizer on this day. Now, it did apply nicely, but keep in mind I had to work with it a little bit because of the color match. Now, it's pretty dewy before I set it, but after I set it and apply my makeup, it looks radiant but pretty. It looks like good skin. I would say the coverage is sheer to light medium. I can still see redness and imperfections, but they do have color correcting primers that go along with this line. So I'm kind of wondering if that's what the situation is. It feels very lightweight. I would say the wear is okay with this. I get shiny with it. These clips are on another rainy day. It was really rainy when I was testing out some of these foundations. It wears away on me no matter what I do very quickly on my chin. So I just think this is not the product for me in particular. This might work nicely for someone who has dry skin to just fairly combination, leaning normal without any surface dehydration flakies whatsoever. There are a lot of you out there who really hydrate your skin well because your skin is dry, but you don't have flakies. You just feel dry, and this might really work for you and give you that sheer light to fairly light medium skin tint that you desire. I think that this might work well for you. There are so many products out now called skin tints that give medium coverage. Isn't that just a foundation? I don't know. Anyway, we have one of those. I'll share more information on now. This is the Beautyblender Bounce Skin Tint that I have actually talked about on my channel before. It comes in this dropper bottle. So this is $29 for 1 ounce of product. There are 20 shades. My shade is medium 3. So this is another vegan, cruelty-free product. This also has some skincare ingredients in it. It's supposed to give a nice radiant finish and give light medium buildable coverage and hydrate with hyaluronic acid. It also has niacinamide that we talked about earlier. It's also got willow bark extract and beta glucan, which is supposed to soothe and restore the skin. This has a very thin, runny consistency and it blends out very, very quickly. You can use any method. Really, I use a sponge for it. I mean, it makes sense because it's from Beautyblender. It's very dewy on me before I set it. After I set it, it is radiant, but not too radiant for my combination skin that gets oily in the T-zone. I would say this is buildable from sheer to medium, and it looks really skin-like. On my skin, this feels lightweight yet hydrating, and it wears a full day. I do get some shine, maybe 3 to 4 hours in. This is a good daily foundation if you're wanting skincare in your foundation. I would say if you're super oily, this might not be something you would want to reach for. I would say maybe dry to combination. It was very compatible with every primer I used or without a primer. I actually prefer it with a slightly mattifying primer. I didn't need a smoothing primer or anything because it's, pretty smoothing. But yeah, really nice daily easy foundation. These are the 7 best and worst out of the ones that I've tried recently. What have you loved lately? What are you wanting to see reviews on? Let me know in the comments and I'll check some of those out. I hope you found this enjoyable and helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.